Bienvenidos and welcome back to another segment of Arizona Barrio Stories in Latino USA TV. This is Dr. Jose Leyba bringing you stories from our community through our Chicano perspective. And as you well know, our community is being attacked on all sides. And we want to show you today from a Chicano perspective, from two Chicanos who experienced the walkouts of the 60s, the riots of the 60s, and the discrimination that led to us being here today by the power of democracy and education. And my guest today is Danny Ortega, a very well-known civil rights attorney. He led the walkouts in Phoenix Unions, on the board of Cesar Chavez Foundation, president of the board of Unidos, and a philanthropist here in our valley. So Danny, welcome today.
Thank you for inviting me, Jose. The circumstances are tough, but we've got to talk.
Yeah. You know, our community right now, Arizona Barrio Stories, we stand with our immigrant community. First of all, I want everybody to know, as Chicanos, as brown people, we stand for our community. But we have to talk about the issues, and we've got to reach out to those individuals that don't stand with our community. And we have to tell them, now's the time for you to stand up. So, Danny, let's talk a little bit about ICE, Senator Padilla's treatment recently by the Secretary of Homeland Security, the protests, and what are the solutions? Where are we going to go from here?
Well, first of all, I'll say it was absolutely unequivocally repugnant. It was the most sickening thing I have ever seen. And though I've seen it on our community on the streets, little did I think that a U.S. Senator would be treated the same way. But that only proves one thing, Jose, that when it comes to this, we're all going to get treated the same.
Exactly.
Fortunately, he's treating a whole bunch of people the same way. The way he's dealing with labor, the way he's dealing with a vast amount of folks, the people who oppose him, not just our community, and the way he's dealing with them in such a tyrannical way is the thing that we've got to fight against. Because at the end of the day, our fight back, which we have, and we're ready, just like the senator was ready on that day, okay, is going to happen, but we need to coalesce and we need to come together so that these kinds of incidents don't happen again, not only to the senator, but anybody in our community.
And I think the senator said it best in his interview, and you know him, we've met him. He's probably the nicest person, most respectful individual you will ever meet, but he's got the heart, and he hasn't changed. I got to meet the senator when I was president of Mission College in Los Angeles, his very first year in the assembly, and we had a great breakfast. We talked, and he was a young man then, and then I got to see him again a couple of years ago, and he hasn't changed one bit. So, and he said it best, if they treat a senator, a Chicano senator like that, what are they doing to our people? But I think our message, Danny, about coalescing, we saw that here in the Chicano moratorium and the anti-Vietnam War, all the different groups. I remember marching, your dad's flatbed, you guys were handing out water. And we saw the Chicanos going this way, then the veterans came, the other groups came, and they coalesced at the state capitol to protest the war. And I think we saw that again today. What are your viewpoints on that?
Well, I think that, you know, my mom used to say, no hay un mal porque bien no venga. And that is seeing the silver lining in the dark clouds. Chicano versus, you know, the other. And that is that with these very adversarial, very tragic times, there's going to be a whole new sector of young leadership that's going to be activated. We're going to see a lot more activists out there. Jose, in the last 10 years, we've gotten a little comfortable. Before that, especially as it relates to the immigrant movement, we stood our ground, that our folks were going to be treated like human beings. If they deserve to be in the arms or the hands of law enforcement, that's one issue. But to attack our total community because they're looking for people who are undocumented is unacceptable. And so that, you know, mal, que por bien no venga, is that one, it's creating a whole new cadre of leadership. Two, pobre senator, right? I don't wish that on anybody. But you know, Donald Trump and his people made him the most famous Latino in the country.
That's right.
And so he took a few fregazos, brother, but he gave them back, but with words. If you saw his response and how civil he was, he gained my respect 100 times over, Jose, because of the manner in which, one, he was standing up for our people, how he was attacked because he stood up for our people, and ultimately was an absolute gentleman in a very, very, very strong way
Right.
to show the world who not only he was, but who we were,
Right.
and the fact that we just weren't going to take it anymore.
And you know, those stories play out every day. Here we had a young police officer, Gabriel Facio, of Apache Junction, which is a very conservative area of the state. And he's a Mexican immigrant, and his dream was to come here and become a police officer to serve his country. And we need to this administration doesn't show that. All they do is show the criminals that are getting deported, the rapists and so on, but they don't show those types of immigrants. And now we also find that there's some pushback on the administration from the service industries, from construction, from the meatpacking plants, about all their workers are gone. And so that's demonstrating they need us more than ever now.
Yeah, that's interesting that all of a sudden all these groups that rely on immigrant labor, right, are saying we can't operate without them. You got to separate these folks from these folks, which I think is bull, right? I think that everybody has to be protected. Jose, mira, you said it best earlier when we were talking before the show.
Right.
All we're asking for is to be protected by the same Constitution that everybody else is protected for. And at the end of the day, due process is number one. To be able to use the courts, whether on administrative level, state level, or federal level, to use the courts to determine someone's ability to stay here or not. And there are a lot of people who are being arrested, there are a lot of people who are being detained who have rights under the Constitution and who have rights under statute, federal statute as well as state statute, to remain here and fight their cases. And so due process is extremely important in these situations, Jose. And when you talk about Officer Facio, which is a very sad story, right? He believed in those things.
Exactly.
He was a police officer because he believed in those things. And I think the message that we send to the world out there is, look, undocumented or not, the Constitution and all the documents the founders did said people, persons. It doesn't say citizens, it doesn't say legal residents, it said persons. So at the end of the day, we have to stand up for that also.
And you know, I never imagined that you and I marching the streets and matching the activism would be at a point where we were at, a successful civil rights attorney. And I remember my first year teaching history, and I taught about the three branches of government, and it took all my Chicano kids to the state legislature for them to witness how it operates. And so I think that everyone is under attack right now, not just the immigrants, our LGBT community, our African American brothers and sisters, our Native American brothers and sisters. All Americans are under attack, and so we've got to reach out to everyone.
Look at the cutbacks. Everybody's being affected by it. Now, I don't disagree that there has to be some trimming of the federal budget, the trimming of the state budget for different things. But for those in most in need, there should be no cutbacks. That's what we're all about as a country, Jose.
Yeah.
And more importantly, we also need to promote culture. This isn't a situation where all people got to be like this group, right? Which leads me to another point. What about our brothers and sisters that support that tyrant? What about that 30%, 1/3 that voted for that tyrant? Okay. There are those who did it for religious reasons, okay? But he is the most anti-Christ person you can find.
Exactly.
All right?
Exactly.
So I get you on your religious reasons, but what about his actions now and the things that he's doing to our community that are not religious at all? As a matter of fact, they're anti-religion.
Yeah.
And so I want to talk to them and say to them, okay, so you voted for this tyrant. And now you see what he's doing not only to our community, but he's doing to our country. Where are you now? Are you still with him? Are you still promoting his... Jose, it just makes me angry.
I know.
And all I'm saying is, look, search deep about your values. Search deep about why it is you did what you did to vote for this man. Remember, he only won by 1.3% of the vote.
Right.
This business about he had this resound victory is wrong. And you know what? Those in our community that voted for him, you have the right to vote for who you want. But I want you to evaluate him on what he's done to our community and tell me that you haven't changed your mind. That's number one, okay? And number two, for those of you who didn't vote, you voted for him. Because it's my opinion that those of you who didn't vote, okay, could have given the edge to somebody who was more humanistic and more in tune with our community.
So, and Danny, you're absolutely right, the anger, but I think now we have to look for solutions, and what are we going to do in the midterms? Okay, the Democrats aren't perfect, but they're a hell of a lot better than the alternative which we see right now in Congress. So we've got to get our people out, but especially talking to our Chicano Latino males and males in general who supported him. If it's a macho thing, and we all have family members, we all know people that supported him, we've got to reach out to you all, and you guys got to wake up. You have to wake up.
I always say when we discuss the issue of the current president, right? Hey, just remember that 1/3 of our group supported this dude, right? Now, what we got to do is plan for the future. Yeah. How do we stop this tyranny? How do we protect democracy, right? How do we protect our constitutional rights? There's a midterms elections coming up, Jose. And I like what you said. Look, the Democratic Party ain't necessarily, everything I want it to be. But at the end of the day, it's the closest thing.
Correct.
The closest thing to bringing human value and treating us like human beings. This is not a promotion of Democrats or the Democratic Party.
Absolutely.
This is an absolute warning that the Republican Party and those who elected this man, okay, are the ones that are responsible for what's happening to everybody in this country at this point.
And there's a lot of reasonable people. Again, I'm going to fall back as I was watching the parade for Officer Facio. There were a lot of Anglo people out there. There were probably people that looked pretty conservative to me, but they see that this Mexican immigrant, they see the real people. Okay, and we need to look at the real people. But I saw so many young people marching. My grandson was out there, our two sons were out there, as were many young people marching. And so we reach out to everybody. We're talking to everybody right now. So Danny, closing words, what's your final statement?
My closing words to all of us are this. The only way we're going to change this is to continue to take action, the way we've seen in the last few weekends in terms of demonstrations, 1. 2, you gotta register to vote if you're not registered to vote and are eligible to vote. That makes the difference. Next, for those of you who didn't vote in the last election, see the circumstances, see the results of what happened, get out and vote. Look, I'm not telling you how to vote, particularly you men, you Chicanos or males, okay, who voted for this man. Is it your macho inside, or do you have a sense of human value to recognize who the monster is and change your mind and to change the way things happened 2 years ago at our elections? The midterm elections is one, for those of you who voted for him, to rethink it. For those who didn't vote, to get out to vote. For those who could have registered to vote, Jose, to register to vote. That's how we're going to make real change. And at the end of the day, not cry about what we should have done, but what we're going to do.
Muchas gracias, Daniel. En español, su voto es su voz. We need more of those voices out there to register to vote and to get involved in the midterms and really rethink your vote. So thank you, Daniel. Muchas gracias. Really appreciate your message, brother. I hope that people out there, our audience, are listening and take it to heart. We're two old-time activists, and here we are, still fighting the battles, y la lucha sigue. Arriba y adelante. Muchas gracias. This is Dr. Jose Leyba, Arizona Barrio Stories, and Latino USA TV. Download our app, watch our programs, and join us in this movement to change the country and make it a better place for all of us. Muchas gracias.